The ceiling above him was white, but not like any white he had seen before. It moved slowly, like clouds made of light. Small orbs floated near the walls, giving off a soft glow that had no source he could find. The air smelled clean, too clean, like a hospital but without the sharp chemical smell. He tried to sit up, but his body felt heavy. His last memory was walking home from work. It was late. The street was empty. Then there was light, bright and blinding, coming from above. After that, nothing. Where was he? Tejo turned his head and his breath stopped. Someone was lying next to him. She was not human. He knew this immediately, even though she had 2 arms, 2 legs, and a face that was almost familiar. Her skin was silver, smooth like polished metal but soft-looking. Across her cheeks and down her neck, thin lines glowed with pale blue light, like veins filled with electricity. Her hair was white and fell across the pillow like silk threads. She was beautiful in a way that made no sense to him. Her eyes opened. They were violet, deep and bright, with no white around the colored part. She looked at him and smiled. "You belong to me now, human," she whispered. Tejo stared at her for a long moment. His heart was beating fast, but his face showed nothing. He had learned long ago to hide his fear. "Where am I?" he asked. His voice was rough. The woman tilted her head. The glowing lines on her skin flickered brighter for a moment. She seemed surprised by his question, or maybe by the way he asked it. "You are aboard the Imperial starship Sunfire," she said. "You are in my private chamber. You are safe." "Safe," Tejo repeated. He looked around the strange room again. "I was taken. I remember the light. Yes, you were collected from your world, a primitive planet at the edge of explored space." She said this like she was explaining something simple to a child. "You should be grateful. Most of your kind are never given this opportunity." Tejo sat up slowly. His body ached, but nothing seemed broken. He was wearing different clothes now, a simple gray uniform that was not his own. Someone had changed him while he was unconscious. He did not like that thought. "What do you mean I belong to you?" he asked. The woman sat up as well. She was tall, taller than him, and she moved with a grace that seemed practiced over many years. The glowing patterns on her skin shifted as she moved like living light. "I am Princess Vellani of the Ilori Empire," she said. 3 cycles ago, our ship was attacked by raiders. During the battle, you escaped from the collection hold. You did not know what was happening. You were confused and afraid." She paused. "But when an explosion came toward my location, you threw yourself in front of me. You shielded me with your body." Tejo frowned. He had no memory of this. "You were badly injured," Vellani continued. "You have been healing for 3 cycles. Our medical technology is advanced. You are fully recovered now." "I saved you," Tejo said slowly. "By accident. It does not matter if it was accident or choice. By the ancient laws of my people, you saved the life of a royal. This creates a bond that cannot be broken." Vellani's violet eyes studied him carefully. "You belong to me now. I am responsible for you, and I owe you a debt that can never be fully repaid." Tejo was quiet for a moment. He was trying to understand. He had been taken from Earth. He was on a spaceship. He had saved an alien princess without knowing it. And now, he was her property. "Can I go home?" he asked. Vellani's expression changed. For the first time, she looked uncertain. "No," she said softly. "You cannot." "Why?" She stood up and walked to the wall. She touched it, and a window appeared where there had been only white surface before. Outside, Tejo saw stars, thousands of them, millions, more than he had ever seen from Earth. They were moving slowly past the window as the ship traveled through space. "Your species," Vellani said, "is known to the Galactic Council. Humanity was discovered 200 years ago by our counting. A council survey ship entered your system and observed your world. We never knew, Tejo said. You were not meant to know. The council watched your kind for 10 years. They studied your history, your wars, your weapons, your behavior. Vellani turned to face him. They were afraid of what they saw. Afraid of us? Your species is classified as a quarantined predator species. It is forbidden to make contact with your world. It is forbidden to collect your kind. It is forbidden for humans to exist anywhere in council space. Her voice was serious. If anyone discovers what you are, the law requires your immediate execution. Tejo felt cold. Then why am I here? Why did your people take me? Vellani looked away. The collection was not authorized. It was done by individuals who wished to study humans secretly. When the raiders attacked, the collection hold was damaged. Many specimens escaped. Most were killed in the battle. She paused. You were the only one who survived. And now you're hiding me. Yes. Because if they find out, they'll kill me. Yes. Tejo walked to the window and stood beside her. He looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, very far away, was Earth, his home, his apartment, his job, his ordinary life. All of it was gone now. Why? He asked quietly. Why are they so afraid of humans? Vellani was silent for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was strange. Because you do not stop, she said. Other species, when they face impossible situations, they surrender. They accept defeat. They run. But humans... She shook her head. The council records show humans who kept fighting with broken bones. Humans who walked for days without water. Humans who smiled at their enemies before dying. Your species does not know when to give up. This makes you dangerous in a way no other species is dangerous. Tejo thought about this. He did not feel dangerous. He was just an engineer. He designed parts for airplanes. He liked coffee and quiet evenings and old movies. But he also remembered the time he worked for 30 hours straight to fix a critical design flaw. The time he walked 10 kilometers through a storm because his car broke down. The time he refused to quit a job even when everyone told him he should. Maybe the aliens were not completely wrong. So what happens now? He asked. Vellani turned to look at him. Her violet eyes were unreadable. Now I keep you hidden. I keep you safe. And you stay close to me. She reached out and touched his face with her silver fingers. Her skin was warm, warmer than he expected. You belong to me, Kang Tejo, and I protect what is mine. Tejo looked into her alien eyes. He did not know if he could trust her. He did not know if he would ever see Earth again. He did not know what his future held. But he knew one thing. He was not going to give up. That was not something humans did. Tejo learned many things during this time. He learned that the Elori were one of the oldest and most powerful species in the galaxy. He learned that their empire controlled over 2,000 worlds. He learned that Princess Vellani was the only heir to the throne, and that her father, Emperor Dorath, was very old and very sick. He also learned that Vellani was not what he expected. She was not cruel. She did not treat him like a pet or a slave. She gave him his own room, brought him food, and spent hours talking with him about his world. She was curious about everything. She wanted to know about Earth's oceans and mountains. She wanted to know about human music and art. She wanted to know why humans slept for 8 hours every night when most species only needed 3. But she was also hiding something. Tejo could see it in her eyes sometimes, a worry she would not share. To keep him safe, Vellani disguised Tejo as a member of a species called the Ven. The Ven were small, quiet servants with gray skin and no special abilities. They were common throughout the Empire, and no one looked at them twice. Special contact lenses hid his human eyes, and makeup covered his skin to make it gray. As long as he kept his head down and did not speak, no one would know what he was. The ship stopped at a space station called Koreth Hub. It was a massive structure, a city floating in space where ships from many worlds came to trade and resupply. Vellani needed to meet with merchants and conduct business for the Empire. Tai-Ho walked behind her through the crowded corridors of the station. He kept his eyes low, but he saw everything. There were species of all kinds here. Some were tall and thin like the Ilori. Some were short and covered in fur. Some had too many eyes or too many legs. Some floated through the air without touching the ground. It was overwhelming, but Tai-Ho forced himself to stay calm. He was a stranger in a strange place. Panic would not help him. They were walking through a market area when the trouble started. A group of 4 aliens blocked their path. They were reptilian, with green scales and yellow eyes and mouths full of sharp teeth. They wore armor and carried weapons openly. Tai-Ho recognized them from Vellani's descriptions. They were Kreth, a species known for violence and mercenary work. "Well, well," the largest Kreth said. He was looking at Vellani with a smile that showed all his teeth. "An Ilori princess, so far from home. Where are your guards, little royal?" Commander Rizal, Vellani's head guard, stepped forward. He was a tall Ilori warrior with scars on his face and a hand on his weapon. "Step aside. You are addressing royalty." "Royalty means nothing out here," the Kreth leader said. "This is neutral space. Your empire has no power here." He took a step closer to Vellani. "Maybe we should teach this princess what happens to soft nobles who wander into dangerous places." Rizal moved to draw his weapon, but Tai-Ho moved faster. He stepped between Vellani and the Kreth. He did not draw a weapon. He did not raise his fists. He simply stood there, directly in the Kreth leader's path, and looked up at him. The Kreth was twice his size. His claws could cut through metal. His teeth could crush bone. Tai-Ho did not move. "Get out of the way, little Ven," the Kreth growled, "before I add you to my meal." Tai-Ho said nothing. He just kept looking at the Kreth's face. His body was relaxed. His breathing was slow. His heartbeat was steady. The Kreth frowned. Something was wrong, and he could feel it. This small gray creature should be terrified. Every prey species in the galaxy knew to fear the Kreth. They would shake, or cry, or beg, or run. But this one did nothing. The Kreth leader looked into Tai-Ho's eyes. Behind the gray contact lenses, something looked back at him. Something patient. Something that was not afraid. The Kreth's scales prickled. Deep in his brain, in the ancient part that remembered what it was to be hunted, an alarm was ringing. This creature was small and weak, but it stood like a predator. It watched like a predator. It waited like something that knew how to kill. The Kreth stepped back. He did not know why he did it. His body moved before his mind could stop it. "Let's go," he said to his companions. His voice was rough. "These aren't worth our time." The other Kreth looked confused, but they followed their leader. In moments, they were gone, disappeared into the crowd. Rizal stared at Tai-Ho. "What did you do?" "Nothing," Tai-Ho said. "I just stood there." Vellani was looking at him with an expression he could not read. Her bioluminescent markings were pulsing faster than normal. Later, in her private quarters on the station, she asked him about it. "Why did you do that?" Tai-Ho sat by the window, looking out at the stars. "Do what?" "Step in front of me. Risk yourself. You are supposed to be invisible. You are supposed to let my guards handle threats." "He was going to hurt you." "You don't know that." "I know what a predator looks like when it's ready to attack." Tai-Ho turned to face her. "I've seen it before. In humans." Vellani sat down across from him. Her violet eyes studied his face. "You could have been killed. One strike from a Kreth would break every bone in your body." "Probably." "Then why?" Tai-Ho thought about it. He thought about his life on Earth, He thought about the people he had known, the friends he had made, the ordinary days he had lived. He thought about everything he had lost. "You're the only one who knows what I am," he said. "You're the only one who hasn't tried to kill me. If you die, I have nothing. No one to help me. No one to hide me. No way to survive." Villani's expression softened. "So you protected me because I am useful to you?" "Yes." She smiled slightly. "Most beings would lie. They would say they protected me out of loyalty or love. They would try to make themselves seem noble. I'm not most beings." "No," she agreed. "You are not." She stood up and walked to her desk. There was a small device there, a communication screen. It was flashing with a red light. "I received a message today," she said. Her voice was different now, heavier. "From my homeworld." "Bad news?" "My father is dying. The physicians say he has weeks left, maybe days." She paused. "I must return to Eloria immediately." "I'm sorry." Villani turned to look at him. "When I return, there will be a fight for the throne. My cousin Kovar wants to be emperor. He has allies, money, and no honor. He will try to stop me." "What does that mean for me?" "It means you are coming with me, and it means things are about to become much more dangerous." She walked closer to him. "My father's court is full of spies and enemies. If anyone discovers what you are, they will not just kill you. They will use you to destroy me." Tejo stood up. He was shorter than her, but he met her eyes without looking away. "Then we make sure no one finds out," he said. Villani looked at him for a long moment. Then she did something unexpected. She reached out and took his hand, her silver fingers wrapped around his human ones. "You are strange, Kang Tejo," she said. "Every other species in the galaxy looks at the Elori with fear or worship, but you look at me like I am just another person. Aren't you?" She smiled, and for the first time, it seemed real. "No one has ever asked me that before." The ship left for Eloria the next morning. Tejo stood at the window and watched the station grow smaller behind them. He did not know what waited for him on the alien homeworld. He did not know if he would survive the political games of an empire. He did not know if he would ever see Earth again. But he was not alone. And for now, that was enough. From space, it looked like a jewel. The oceans were deep blue with streaks of purple. The land masses were covered in forests that glowed faintly in the night. 3 moons circled the planet, each one a different color, casting overlapping shadows across the surface. As the ship descended through the atmosphere, Tejo pressed his face against the window like a child. He could not help himself. He had spent his whole life looking up at the stars, wondering what was out there. Now he was landing on an alien world, seeing things no human had ever seen before. The capital city was called Serath. It rose from the center of a vast continent, a collection of towers and spires that seemed to touch the clouds. The buildings were made of a crystal-like material that caught the light and scattered it into rainbows. Gardens floated between the towers, suspended by technology Tejo could not understand. Rivers of light flowed through the streets like liquid electricity. "Your home is incredible," Tejo said quietly. Villani stood beside him. She was dressed in formal robes now, white and gold, with patterns that matched the glowing lines on her skin. She looked like a princess from a fairy tale. "It is beautiful," she agreed, "but beauty can hide many ugly things." The ship landed at the Imperial Palace, a structure that made everything else look small. It sat at the heart of the city, a mountain of crystal and light that had stood for 10,000 years. Guards in silver armor lined the entrance. Nobles in expensive clothes watched from balconies above. Tejo walked behind Villani, keeping his head down, playing the part of a simple Ven servant. No one looked at him twice. He was invisible, just another servant in a palace full of them. They were taken to the Emperor's chamber. Emperor Dorath lay in a bed of floating light. He was ancient, older than any Elori Tejo had seen. His silver skin had faded to gray. His bioluminescent markings were dim, barely glowing. His eyes, once bright violet like Vellani's, were now pale and tired. But when he saw his daughter, he smiled. "Vellani," he said. His voice was weak but warm. "My child, you came." Vellani went to his side and took his hand. "Of course I came, father." They spoke quietly for several minutes. Taiho stayed near the wall, trying to be invisible, but the Emperor's eyes found him anyway. "Who is that?" Dorath asked. Vellani hesitated. "A servant, father, a Ven I acquired on my journey." The Emperor studied Taiho with those pale eyes. For a moment, Taiho felt like the old alien could see right through his disguise. "Come closer," Dorath said. Taiho looked at Vellani. She nodded slightly. He walked forward and stood at the foot of the Emperor's bed. Dorath looked at him for a long time. Then he smiled, a small and knowing smile. "Interesting," was all he said. He turned back to Vellani. "We must speak about what comes next. Leave your servant outside." Vellani guided Taiho to a waiting room and told him to stay there. He sat on a bench and watched servants and nobles pass by. They ignored him completely. To them, he was nothing. "You're new here." Taiho looked up. A woman was standing in front of him. She was dressed as a Ven servant, with gray skin and simple clothes. But her eyes were different. They were brown, human brown. "Don't react," she said in Korean. "Just keep looking at the floor and listen." Taiho's heart jumped, but he controlled his face. He looked down and nodded slightly. The woman sat beside him, pretending to rest. "My name is Yoon Hana. I was taken from Earth 6 years ago. I've been hiding in the Empire ever since." "How did you know what I am?" Taiho whispered. "I've been watching you since you arrived. You move wrong. You breathe wrong. You react to things that don't make sense to a Ven." She paused. "Also, I can smell you. Humans have a different smell than other species. Most aliens can't detect it, but I can." Taiho risked a glance at her. She was younger than him, maybe mid-20s. Her face was hard and tired, the face of someone who had survived difficult things. "Are there others?" he asked. "Other humans?" "A few, hidden across the Empire. We try to find each other when we can." Hana's voice was bitter. "Most don't survive long. The galaxy is not a friendly place for our kind. The princess is protecting me. I know. Everyone in the palace is talking about Vellani's strange new servant." Hana looked at him seriously. "Do you understand how dangerous that is? If the court discovers a human is bonded to the heir, it will destroy her claim to the throne. Her enemies will use you against her." "I know. Do you? Because right now, you are the biggest threat to everything she's trying to accomplish." Hana stood up. "I'm not saying this to be cruel. I'm saying it because you need to understand. You are not just a refugee here. You are a weapon. And if you're not careful, you will be used to hurt the one person trying to help you." She walked away before he could respond. Vellani found him an hour later. Her face was troubled. "My father told me about the succession trials," she said as they walked through the palace. "When an emperor dies without a clear heir, the candidates must prove their worth through 3 tests: wisdom, endurance, combat. And you have to compete?" "Yes, against my cousin Kovar." Her jaw tightened. "He has been preparing for this his entire life. He has allies in the military. He has nobles who support him. He has assassins who will do whatever he commands." "What do you have?" Vellani stopped walking. She looked at Taiho with an expression that mixed sadness and determination. "I have the people's love. I have my father's blessing. And I have you. I'm not much of an advantage. You don't know that yet." She started walking again. My father saw through your disguise immediately. He knew what you were the moment you entered the room. Tae-ho felt cold. Will he expose me? No. He asked me why I was hiding a human. I told him the truth, that you saved my life. Villani's voice softened. He said he was glad. He said humans were not what the galaxy believed them to be. How would he know? He would not tell me. But he said that keeping you close might be the smartest thing I've ever done. She looked at him. My father is dying, but his mind is still sharp. If he believes you are valuable, then you are. They arrived at a large door guarded by soldiers. Villani stopped. Tonight there is a banquet, a welcoming celebration for my return. All the nobles will attend. Kovar will attend. She paused. He will try to find weaknesses he can exploit. He will look for anything he can use against me. What should I do? Stay close, stay silent, and whatever happens, do not let anyone see who you really are. Tae-ho nodded. I understand. Villani reached out and touched his cheek, the same gesture she had made the first day they met. Her silver hand was warm against his skin. I know this is not the life you wanted, she said. I know you dream of going home. But for now, we need each other. And I promise you, Kang Tae-ho, I will not let anyone hurt you. Tae-ho looked into her violet eyes. He saw something there he had not seen before. It was not just duty or politics. It was something real, something personal. I promise the same, he said. Villani smiled. It was a small smile, but it reached her eyes. Tomorrow would bring danger. The banquet would bring enemies. The trials would bring death. But tonight, for just one moment, Tae-ho felt like he was not alone in the universe. And that made all the difference. Tae-ho stood against the wall, dressed in the simple gray clothes of a Ven servant. All around him, the most powerful beings in the Elori Empire gathered to celebrate Villani's return. They wore clothes that cost more than Tae-ho had earned in his entire life on Earth. They laughed and drank and whispered secrets to each other, and every single one of them was watching. Villani moved through the crowd like water flowing through stones. She smiled at the right moments. She said the right words. She touched the right hands. She was perfect, a princess playing her role without a single mistake. But Tae-ho could see the tension in her shoulders. He could see the way her eyes kept moving to the far end of the hall, where a group of nobles stood around a tall figure in black robes. Prince Kovar. He was handsome. Tae-ho had to admit. His silver skin was flawless. His bioluminescent markings burned bright gold instead of the usual blue. His smile was charming, his voice was smooth, and his eyes were completely empty. Tae-ho had known men like Kovar on Earth, men who smiled while they planned your destruction, men who shook your hand while hiding a knife behind their back. Kovar was not just ambitious, he was dangerous. The prince made his way through the crowd toward Villani. They met in the center of the hall where everyone could see. The conversations around them grew quiet. Cousin, Kovar said warmly, welcome home. I was so worried when I heard your ship was attacked by raiders. Your concern is touching, Kovar. Villani's voice was polite, but cool. I survived, as you can see. Yes, you did. My uncle told me an interesting story about your survival. Kovar's golden eyes drifted to Tae-ho, standing against the wall. He said you were saved by a servant, a brave little Ven who threw himself in front of an explosion for you. Villani's expression did not change. My servants are loyal. Clearly, I would love to meet this heroic creature. Kovar raised his voice so the whole hall could hear. Bring forward the servant who saved Princess Villani's life. The room went silent. Every eye turned to Tae-ho. He had no choice. He walked forward, keeping his head down, and stopped a few steps away from Vellani and Kovar. "Look at him," Kovar said. He circled Taeho slowly, like a predator examining prey. So small, so plain. How did something like this save the life of an Ilori princess? "Courage is not measured by size," Vellani said. "Perhaps not, but strength is." Kovar smiled at the watching nobles. "I propose a test, a small entertainment for our guests. Let us see just how strong this heroic servant really is." Vellani's eyes narrowed. "What kind of test?" Kovar clapped his hands. The crowd parted, and a massive figure walked into the hall. It was a Gorvani, one of the largest and most dangerous warrior species in the galaxy. He stood 8 feet tall. He had 4 arms, each one thick with muscle. His skin was like stone, gray and rough and almost impossible to cut. "This is my champion," Kovar said. "The rules are simple. Your servant must receive 3 strikes from my Gorvani. If he remains standing after the 3rd strike, you keep your honor. If he falls—" Kovar shrugged. "Well, at least we'll know the truth about Ven courage." Vellani stepped forward. "This is ridiculous. I refuse." "You cannot refuse." Kovar's voice hardened. "This is a challenge of honor, witnessed by the noble houses. Refusing would be admitting weakness." He looked at the crowd. "Unless the princess wishes to tell us that her servant's heroism was just a story," the nobles whispered to each other. Taeho understood what was happening. Kovar had created a trap with no escape. If Vellani refused, she would look weak and dishonest. If she accepted, her servant would be beaten to death in front of everyone. Taeho stepped forward. "I accept." Everyone stared at him. Servants did not speak in situations like this. They did not make decisions. They waited for orders. But Taeho was not really a servant, and he was not going to let Vellani be destroyed by this game. "The servant accepts," Kovar said, delighted. "How brave! How foolish!" He waved his hand. "Begin." The Gorvani moved forward. Each step shook the floor. He raised one massive arm, hand curled into a fist the size of Taeho's head. Taeho did not move. He planted his feet and faced the giant directly. The first strike hit him in the chest. The impact was like being hit by a car. Taeho flew backward, crashed to the ground, and felt his ribs scream with pain. For a moment his vision went dark. Every part of his body told him to stay down, to give up, to accept defeat. He got up. The crowd murmured in surprise. The Gorvani tilted his head. Confused. The Ven species was weak. One strike should have been enough. The second strike hit Taeho in the side. He felt something crack. Blood appeared on his lips. He fell to one knee, gasping for breath, pain flooding through him like fire. He got up. Now the crowd was completely silent. Kovar's smile had faded. The Gorvani was looking at Taeho with something that might have been respect. The 3rd strike was aimed at Taeho's head. If it connected fully, it would kill him. Everyone knew this. Kovar knew this. That was the point. But Taeho had been watching the Gorvani's movements. He had been learning, and at the last moment he turned just slightly, letting the blow graze his skull instead of hitting directly. He fell. He hit the ground hard. Blood ran down his face, but he put his hands on the floor. He pushed, and slowly, painfully, impossibly, he stood up. The hall was completely silent. Taeho looked at the Gorvani. His voice came out rough and broken, but clear. "My turn?" The Gorvani's eyes widened. The crowd gasped. Kovar stepped back involuntarily. Before anyone could stop him, Taeho moved. He did not try to match the giant's strength. That would be suicide. Instead, he targeted a spot Hana had told him about, a nerve cluster on the Gorvani's neck where the armor of their skin was thinnest. One strike. Precise. Perfect. The Gorvani collapsed. The hall erupted in chaos. Nobles shouted. Guards moved forward. Kovar's face twisted with rage. "This is impossible!" he screamed. "This creature cheated! No Ven could do this!" But before he could say more, a voice cut through the noise. "Enough!" Everyone turned. Emperor Dorath stood at the entrance to the hall. He was supported by 2 servants, barely able to stand, but his eyes were clear and sharp. "I saw what happened," he said. "The challenge was 3 strikes. The servant endured 3 strikes and remained standing. By the ancient laws, the challenge is complete." He looked at Kovar. "Unless you wish to argue with the law, nephew?" Kovar's jaw tightened. "No, uncle." "Good." The Emperor's pale eyes moved to Tae-ho. "That was impressive, little servant. I have not seen such determination in many years." He smiled, the same small and knowing smile from before. "My daughter chose well." He turned and walked away, leaving the hall in stunned silence. Vellani rushed to Tae-ho's side. Her hands touched his face, his shoulders, checking his wounds. Her violet eyes were bright with worry. "You fool," she whispered. "You could have died. But I didn't. Why did you do that? Why did you fight back? Servants don't fight back." Tae-ho looked at her. Blood was still running down his face. His ribs were cracked. Every breath was agony. But he smiled. "I'm not a servant," he said, "and I don't know how to stay down." Vellani stared at him for a long moment. Then she laughed, a real laugh, bright and surprised, and full of something Tae-ho could not name. "No," she said. "I suppose you don't." She helped him walk out of the hall. Behind them, the nobles whispered and watched. Kovar stared with eyes full of hate. The game had changed, and Tae-ho had just made himself the most interesting creature in the Empire. Tae-ho was resting in his small room near Vellani's chambers. His ribs were wrapped in healing bandages that glowed with soft light. Ilori medicine was advanced, and the doctor said he would be fully healed in 2 days. But for now, every breath still hurt. A servant appeared at his door with a message. The Emperor wanted to see him. Alone. Tae-ho followed the servant through the quiet palace. The halls were empty at this hour. The floating lights had dimmed to a gentle glow. Their footsteps echoed against the crystal floors. The Emperor's private chamber was smaller than Tae-ho expected. It was not the grand room where he had first seen Dorath. This was a study filled with books and star maps and artifacts from 100 worlds. The walls were covered with images, some painted, some made of light. Dorath sat in a chair by the window, looking out at the 3 moons rising over Serath. He looked smaller than before, older, like a candle burning down to its last bit of wax. "Sit," he said without turning. Tae-ho sat in a chair across from him. They were silent for a moment, looking at the moons together. "Do you know why I wanted to speak with you?" Dorath asked. "No, because you remind me of someone I met a long time ago." The Emperor turned to face him. His pale eyes studied Tae-ho's face. "I know what you are. I have known since the moment you entered my chamber." Tae-ho felt his heart beat faster, but he kept his voice calm. "How?" "Your eyes, the way you move, the way you stood up after the Gorvani hit you, even when every logical part of your brain must have been screaming at you to stay down." Dorath smiled slightly. "I have only seen one other species do that. Humans." There was no point in lying anymore. Tae-ho removed his contact lenses and wiped the gray makeup from part of his face. His human features appeared, brown eyes and tan skin, and the face of a man from Earth. "You're not afraid of me," Tae-ho said. "No. Should I be? The galaxy seems to think so." Dorath laughed, a weak and raspy sound. "The galaxy is full of fools. They see a predator species and assume it must be evil. They see violence and assume it means cruelty." He shook his head. "They do not understand humans at all." "And you do?" The Emperor was quiet for a long moment. Then he began to speak. 60 years ago, when I was young, I commanded a patrol fleet at the edge of explored space. We encountered a ship unlike any we had seen before. It was small, primitive, barely capable of traveling between stars. But it was trying. "A human ship," Tae-ho said. "Yes, one of your early exploration vessels. They had traveled for years to reach our territory." Dorath's eyes grew distant with memory. "We should have destroyed them. That was the protocol for quarantined species. But I was curious. I wanted to understand." He stood slowly and walked to a cabinet. He opened it and removed a small object, a book with pages made of paper. Real paper, the kind that came from Earth. "The captain of that ship gave me this," Dorath said. "It is a collection of writings from your world, poetry, philosophy, stories." He held the book carefully, like it was precious. "I spent years reading it, learning your language, trying to understand what kind of species would create such beauty while also being capable of such violence." "What did you learn?" Dorath sat down again. He was breathing harder now, the effort of standing taking its toll. "I learned that humans are not monsters. You are something much more interesting." He looked at Tae-ho directly. "You are a species that contains everything: love and hate, creation and destruction, mercy and cruelty. Other species are simple. They follow patterns. But humans can choose. At any moment in any situation, you can choose who you want to be." Tae-ho thought about this. He thought about human history, all the wars and horrors, but also all the art and kindness. He thought about people who killed for power and people who died for strangers. "We're not special," he said. "We're just people." "That is exactly what makes you special." Dorath leaned forward. "Do you know what happened to that human ship? The council discovered our contact. They demanded I destroy the vessel and execute everyone aboard. They said humans were too dangerous to live. What did you do?" "I let them go." Dorath's voice was heavy. "I erased the records. I lied to the council. I gave them supplies and pointed them toward a path home." He paused. "It was the only time in my life I defied the law, and I have never regretted it." Tae-ho did not know what to say. "I tell you this because you need to understand something," Dorath continued. "The succession trials are not just tests of leadership. They are combat. My daughter must face Kovar's champions in battle. She is strong, but Kovar has been preparing assassins for years. He means to kill her and take the throne. I won't let that happen. I know you won't. That's why I'm giving you something." Dorath reached into his robe and pulled out a seal, a small disk of crystal that glowed with inner light. "This is my personal authority. It grants you the right to fight alongside my daughter in the trials. No one can question it. No one can stop you." Tae-ho took the seal. It was warm in his hand. "Why are you doing this?" he asked. "You're risking everything on a human you just met." "Because I am dying, and I want my daughter to live. Because I believe the galaxy needs to learn the truth about humanity. And because—" Dorath smiled, and for a moment he looked young again. "Because that captain 60 years ago told me something I never forgot. He said that humans have a saying: when you save someone's life, you become responsible for them forever. I didn't save Villani's life on purpose. It doesn't matter. Purpose or accident, the result is the same. You are connected to her now. And I think—" Dorath's voice grew softer. "I think she needs someone like you. Someone who will stand beside her not because she is a princess, but because she is worth standing beside." Tae-ho looked at the seal in his hand. He thought about everything he had lost: his home, his world, his old life. But he also thought about Villani, her smile, her courage, the way she looked at him like he was a person, not a monster. "The trials start tomorrow," Dorath said. "Villani doesn't know I've authorized you to fight. I wanted to give you the choice." "There's no choice to make." You could refuse. You could stay hidden. Let others fight and hope for the best. Taeho stood up. He put the seal in his pocket and looked at the dying emperor. "Where I come from, we have another saying," he said. "You don't leave your people behind." Dorath's pale eyes brightened. "Your people. You consider my daughter your people now?" Taeho thought about it for a moment. Then he nodded. "Yeah," he said. "I do." The emperor laughed, a real laugh this time, full and warm despite his weakness. "Good," he said. "Then go protect her. Show the galaxy what humans are really made of." Taeho bowed, a sign of respect he had never given anyone before. Then he turned and walked out of the chamber. Behind him, Dorath sat alone in the moonlight, holding the old book from Earth. "Perhaps this time," he whispered to himself, "things will be different." The first trial would begin at dawn, and Taeho intended to be ready. It had been built 10,000 years ago, carved into the stone beneath the imperial palace. Here, generations of Ilori had proven their worth through blood and fire. Here, emperors had risen and fallen. Here, the future of an empire would be decided. Taeho stood with Vellani at the entrance to the arena. The stone walls rose around them like the throat of a giant beast. Above, thousands of spectators filled the observation platforms, their bioluminescent markings creating a sea of blue and gold light. Vellani was dressed in combat armor, silver plates over a black bodysuit. She carried a weapon that looked like a spear made of light. Her face was calm, but Taeho could see the tension in her shoulders. "You shouldn't be here," she said without looking at him. "The trials are for candidates, and they're sworn champions. You're supposed to be a servant." Taeho showed her the seal Dorath had given him. Vellani's eyes widened. "My father gave you this?" "Last night. He said I had the right to fight beside you." Vellani stared at the seal for a long moment. When she looked at Taeho again, her violet eyes were bright with emotion. "You could die," she said. "These trials are not games. Kovar's champions are trained killers." "I know. Then why? Why risk your life for an empire that would execute you if they knew what you were?" Taeho thought about how to answer. He thought about duty and honor and all the noble reasons he could give, but in the end he decided to tell the truth. "Because you're the only friend I have in this universe," he said, "and I don't let my friends fight alone." Vellani was silent. Then she reached out and took his hand, squeezing it briefly before letting go. "Stay close to me," she said, "and try not to do anything too human." The first trial was called the Test of Wisdom. Vellani and Kovar were placed in separate chambers and presented with a simulated diplomatic crisis. A colony world was threatening rebellion. They had to resolve the situation using only their words and decisions. Taeho could not participate in this trial directly, but he watched from a viewing screen. Kovar's agents had rigged the simulation, making it nearly impossible. Every choice Vellani made was countered by unexpected disasters. The colony's governor was assassinated. Supply ships were destroyed. Riots broke out in the streets. Vellani was losing. But Taeho noticed something. The simulation had rules, patterns in how events unfolded. Kovar's agents had programmed it to react to certain types of decisions in certain ways. It was like a game, and every game could be beaten. He found a way to send Vellani a signal, a simple pattern of light flashes that they had developed during their time on the ship. He told her to stop trying to solve the problems directly. Instead, she should find the underlying cause. Vellani understood. She stopped reacting to each crisis and started investigating. She discovered that a single corporation was behind all the unrest, manipulating events for profit. Instead of fighting the symptoms, she exposed the truth and offered the colony a new deal based on fairness and transparency. The simulation ended. Vellani had not just solved the crisis. She had exposed its true source, something Kovar's programming had never expected. The judges ruled in her favor. The second trial was called the Test of Endurance. Both candidates had to cross a frozen mountain pass at the northern edge of the planet. The journey would take 3 days. They could bring one companion each. Villani chose Tai-Ho. The cold was brutal. The Allori were adapted to their temperate homeworld, and the frozen north pushed them to their limits. Villani struggled, her bioluminescent markings dimming as her body fought to stay warm. On the second night, Kovar's assassins attacked. They came through the blizzard like ghosts, 5 of them, dressed in white and armed with blades. They surrounded Villani's camp and moved to strike. Tai-Ho was waiting for them. He had been a normal man on Earth, an engineer, someone who sat at a desk and designed airplane parts. But humans had evolved as persistence hunters. They could run for hours without stopping. They could survive conditions that would kill other species. And when their loved ones were threatened, they became something else entirely. The first assassin died before he knew Tai-Ho was there. The second managed to scream before Tai-Ho silenced him. The third and fourth turned to fight, but Tai-Ho was faster, driven by adrenaline and the cold fury of a human protecting what mattered. The fifth assassin ran. Tai-Ho let him go. He needed someone to tell Kovar that his tricks had failed. But the fight had cost them time, and Villani was injured. A blade had caught her side before Tai-Ho could stop it. She could walk, but slowly, and the summit was still far away. "Leave me," she said through frozen lips. "Finish the trial yourself. Bring back proof that we completed it." "No." "You can't carry me. I'm too heavy." Tai-Ho looked at her. She was tall and strong, easily heavier than him. The summit was 10 kilometers away through deep snow and freezing wind. He picked her up anyway. Humans had carried their wounded for thousands of years. They had marched through deserts and jungles and wastelands, refusing to leave anyone behind. Tai-Ho was just one man, but he carried the same stubbornness in his blood. He walked through the night. His muscles screamed, his lungs burned, the cold bit into him like a living thing. But he did not stop. He could not stop. When the sun rose, they reached the summit. Villani was unconscious, but alive. Tai-Ho planted their flag in the frozen ground and collapsed beside her. They had finished the trial. They had survived. The third trial was called the Test of Combat. It took place in the heart of the arena, a circular platform surrounded by glowing barriers. The rules were simple. Defeat your opponent or yield. Death was allowed, but not required. Kovar's champion was a Gorvani, even larger than the one at the banquet. This one was enhanced with metal implants and cybernetic weapons. He was a monster built for war. Villani was still recovering from her injuries. She could fight, but she was not at full strength. Against a normal opponent, she might have won. Against this creature, she would die. Tai-Ho stepped forward. "I claim the right of substitute," he said, holding up the Emperor's seal. "By the authority of Dorath, I will fight in place of Princess Villani." The crowd erupted in confusion. A servant fighting in a royal trial? It was unheard of. But the seal was legitimate, and the law was clear. The judges allowed it. Tai-Ho stepped onto the platform. He had no armor, no weapons, only his body and his will. The Gorvani looked at him and laughed. "Little creature," the giant said, "I will crush you like an insect. You can try." The fight began. The Gorvani was stronger. He was faster. His cybernetic arms could punch through metal. Every attack he made could have killed Tai-Ho instantly. But Tai-Ho did not fight like an alien. He fought like a human. He used the environment, the barriers, the gaps in the platform. He moved unpredictably, never where the Gorvani expected. He took hits that should have ended him and kept moving. The Gorvani grew frustrated. He was not used to prey that refused to die. His attacks became wild, less precise. And then Tai-Ho saw his opening. The Gorvani's cybernetic enhancements had a flaw. The power source was located at the base of his skull, protected but not invulnerable. Tae-ho had watched the giant fight. He had learned his patterns. He knew exactly when the Gorvani's guard would drop. He moved. One strike. Perfect accuracy. Maximum force. The power source exploded in a shower of sparks. The Gorvani's cybernetic limbs went dead. The giant stumbled, suddenly half the warrior he had been, but Tae-ho did not kill him. Instead, he stepped back and waited. The Gorvani looked at him with something like wonder. "Why?" the giant asked. "You could finish me." "I don't kill people who can't fight back." The Gorvani was silent for a moment. Then he lowered his head. "I yield." The arena went silent. Then slowly, applause began. Not from everyone, but from enough. The people had seen something they had never seen before. A small, strange creature defeating a monster through skill and will, and in the end, mercy. Kovar screamed from his platform. "This is illegal! That creature is not Ilori! He cannot compete in the trials!" But Emperor Dorath stood from his throne, supported by servants but standing nonetheless. "The seal is mine," he declared. "The authority is mine. By my power as emperor, I declare this champion legitimate and this trial complete." He looked at Tae-ho with pride. "Princess Vallani wins the succession trials. She will be the next empress." But Kovar was not finished. His face twisted with rage, and he pulled out a communication device. "If I cannot rule," he said, "then no one will." Above the arena, warning lights began to flash. A fleet of ships had appeared in orbit. Kovar's rebel fleet. The civil war had begun. Kovar's rebel fleet had entered the atmosphere, their weapons raining destruction on the capital. Buildings that had stood for thousands of years crumbled. Gardens that had floated for centuries fell to the ground. Everywhere, people were screaming, running, dying. Tae-ho ran through the chaos with Vallani at his side. Her armor was damaged, her face bloody, but her eyes burned with determination. "We need to reach the command center," she shouted over the explosions. "If we can coordinate the Loyalist fleet, we can fight back." "Lead the way." They moved through the streets, dodging debris and weapons fire. Ilori soldiers fought around them, some loyal to Vallani, some to Kovar. It was impossible to tell friend from enemy in the smoke and confusion. Hana found them near the palace gates. She was carrying a medical kit and had blood on her clothes, but she was calm and focused. "I've been treating the wounded," she said. "There are too many. Our medical teams can't keep up." "Do what you can," Vallani said. "We need to end this fast." They reached the command center, a fortified room deep in the palace. Screens covered the walls, showing the battle from every angle. The Loyalist fleet was outnumbered but fighting hard. Vallani took command immediately. She gave orders with the voice of someone born to lead, directing ships, coordinating defenses, finding weaknesses in Kovar's formation. But it was not enough. Kovar's flagship was the key. It was a massive warship called the Iron Throne, and it was shielded by technology that the Loyalist weapons could not penetrate. As long as it survived, the rebel fleet could keep fighting. "We need to bring down those shields," Vallani said, "but our ships can't get close enough." Tae-ho looked at the screen. He looked at the flagship's position, the shield patterns, the gaps in its defense. "What about from inside?" he asked. Vallani turned to him. "What do you mean?" "If I can get aboard that ship, I can disable the shields from the inside. Your fleet can do the rest." "That's suicide. Kovar's ship is filled with soldiers. You'd never survive." "Maybe." Tae-ho met her eyes. "But if I don't try, everyone dies anyway." Vallani was silent for a long moment. Around them, the battle continued, explosions shaking the walls. "I won't let you do this alone," she finally said. "You need to stay here. You're the only one who can lead the fleet." "I don't care about the fleet. I care about you." The words hung in the air between them. Teho saw something in Villani's eyes, something that went beyond politics or survival. It was the same thing he had been feeling for weeks, growing stronger every day. "I'll come back," he said. "You promise?" "I promise." Villani reached out and pulled him close. Her lips touched his, warm and soft and desperate. When she pulled back, her violet eyes were bright with tears. "Go," she whispered, "and come back to me." Teho took a small attack ship from the palace hangar. It was fast and maneuverable, designed for quick strikes. He flew through the burning sky, dodging weapons fire, weaving between larger ships. The Iron Throne grew larger in his view. It was enormous, a mountain of metal and hate. Kovar had put everything into this ship, made it his symbol of power. Teho found a maintenance hatch on the lower hull. He crashed his ship into it, using the impact to breach the outer door. Alarms screamed as he climbed through the wreckage and into the ship. The corridors were full of soldiers. Teho did not try to hide. He moved forward fast and direct, taking down anyone who got in his way. He was not a soldier. He was not a warrior. But he was a human, and when humans had no choice, they became something terrifying. He found the shield generator in the heart of the ship. It was a massive machine, humming with power, protected by a force field that only high-ranking officers could bypass. Kovar was waiting for him. The prince stood in front of the generator, a weapon in his hand. His golden eyes were filled with madness and hate. "I knew you would come," Kovar said. "The little human pet." "Playing hero." Teho stood across from him, breathing hard. He was wounded, bleeding, exhausted, but he was not going to stop. "You've already lost," Teho said. "Villani won the trials. The people support her. Even if you kill me, even if you destroy the city, you'll never be emperor." "I don't want to be emperor anymore." Kovar raised his weapon. "I just want to burn everything. If I can't have the throne, no one will." "That's the difference between you and her," Teho said. "She wants to build. You only know how to destroy." Inspiring words from a dead man. Kovar attacked. He was fast, trained, deadly. His weapon moved like lightning, striking at vital points, aiming to kill. Teho blocked and dodged, but he was slower, weaker, pushed to his limits. A blow caught him in the shoulder, another in the leg. He fell to his knees, blood pooling beneath him. Kovar stood over him, triumphant. "Any last words, human?" Teho looked up at him. His body was broken. His vision was fading. By every measure, he had lost. But humans did not measure things the way aliens did. "Yeah," Teho said. "Just one." He moved. Not fast, not graceful, just determined. His hand shot out and grabbed Kovar's ankle, pulling the prince off balance. As Kovar stumbled, Teho pushed himself up with the last of his strength and drove his fist into the prince's throat. Kovar's eyes went wide. He dropped his weapon, clutching at his neck, gasping for air. "Surrender," Teho said. "It's over." "Never," Kovar choked out. He reached for a hidden blade. Teho did not hesitate. He struck once more, hard and final. Kovar fell and did not get up. Teho stood over the body, swaying on his feet. He had killed before in self-defense, but never like this, never so deliberately. He felt nothing. There would be time for feelings later, if there was a later. He turned to the shield generator. The controls were complex, covered in alien symbols. But technology was universal in some ways, and Teho was an engineer. It took him 3 minutes to figure out the system, 30 seconds to disable the shields. Above, in orbit, Villani's fleet saw the shields fall. They attacked with everything they had. The Iron Throne died in fire. Teho barely made it to an escape pod before the ship exploded. He drifted in space, watching the rebel fleet crumble, watching the battle end. He closed his eyes and let the darkness take him. When Teho woke, he was in a hospital bed. Villani sat beside him, holding his hand. Her eyes were red from crying. but she was smiling. "You came back," she said. "I promised." She leaned down and kissed him again, soft and gentle. "The war is over," she said. "Kovar's fleet surrendered. My father—" Her voice caught. "My father died during the battle. He held on just long enough to see us win." Tejo squeezed her hand. "I'm sorry. He wanted this. He wanted me to succeed." She looked at him with those violet eyes. "And he wanted you to be recognized. His last decree granted you full personhood in the Empire, the first human ever acknowledged by the Galactic Council." Tejo did not know what to say. A few months ago, he had been an engineer on Earth. Now he was making history. "What happens now?" he asked. Vellani stood up. She walked to the window and looked out at Serath, battered but still standing. "Now I become Empress. I rebuild my world. And I petition the Council to reconsider humanity's quarantine status." She turned to face him. "You and Hannah will be my evidence. Proof that humans are not monsters. You think they'll listen? Maybe not today. Maybe not tomorrow. But I have time." She walked back to his bed and sat beside him. "And I have you." Tejo reached out and touched her silver face. "You belong to me now, right?" he said, smiling. "That's what you said the first day." Vellani laughed. "That's what I said." "Well," he pulled her closer, "I think maybe we belong to each other." She kissed him again, and this time neither of them pulled away. 1 month later, Vellani was crowned Empress of the Elori Empire. Tejo stood beside her at the coronation, not as a servant or a pet, but as her bonded partner. The galaxy watched in shock as a human took his place among the most powerful beings in the universe. When asked what title he wanted, Tejo shook his head. "I'm just Tejo," he said. "That's enough." Vellani took his hand in front of 10,000 witnesses. "You belong to me now, human," she said, her voice carrying across the grand hall. He smiled. "And you belong to me." The crowd was silent, uncertain, but then, slowly, applause began. Not because they understood, not because they approved, but because they had seen something new, something unexpected. They had seen a human stand beside an empress, and somehow, impossibly, it worked. Far above, the stars continued to burn, the galaxy continued to spin, and somewhere in the vast darkness of space, two species that should have been enemies had found something better. They had found each other,